Welcome to the All Sorts podcast,
Oh,
where we kind of take your curiosity, and turn it into a deep dive of discovery.
yeah.
Today we're tackling a question that's as old as time itself. Are humans still evolving?
Yeah.
It's easy to think that with all our technology and modern medicine, we've somehow outsmarted evolution.
Right.
But the sources you've sent in suggest something far more fascinating. That human evolution is not only continuing, but it might be accelerating in some ways.
Yeah, it's a common misconception that we've reached like the pinnacle evolution.
Right.
The reality is that evolution is a continuous process, an ongoing dance between our genes and the ever-changing environment.
Yeah,
And the environment, as we know, is anything but static.
that's right.
Huh.
And speaking of the environment, one of the sources you sent in really made me think about the role of infectious diseases
Yeah.
in shaping human evolution, especially in the wake of agriculture.
Yeah. Agriculture, for all its benefits, created a perfect storm for infectious diseases. Larger populations, denser living conditions. It was a breeding ground for pathogens.
Right.
And this created immense pressure for humans to evolve defenses.
So it's like a biological arms race, right? Humans versus pathogens, constantly adapting and counter-adapting.
Yeah.
I remember reading about the sickle cell trait
Yeah.
and how it provides resistance to malaria.
Yeah.
It's a great example of how a seemingly negative trait can actually be beneficial in certain environments.
Precisely. And it's not just sickle cell. There are other genetic variations,
Right.
like thalassemia and G6PD deficiency, that also offer protection against malaria.
Hmm.
These are all testaments to the power of natural selection
Yeah.
in shaping human evolution.
It's fascinating to think about how these ancient pressures continue to influence our health today.
Yeah.
But what about systemic diseases like type 2 diabetes and heart disease?
Mhm.
One of the sources mentioned the thrifty genotype theory.
Yeah.
Can you explain that a bit more?
Sure. The thrifty genotype theory suggests that some genes that predispose us to these diseases today were actually advantageous in the past.
Okay.
Imagine our ancestors facing periods of famine. Those who were genetically predisposed to store energy efficiently
Right.
would have had a survival advantage.
That makes sense. So in a sense, these genes were like a survival toolkit back then.
Exactly.
But now, in a world of abundance, those same genes can become liabilities.
Right.
It's a stark reminder that our evolutionary past is still very much a part of our present.
Absolutely. And it's not just about surviving in the face of disease or famine.
Right.
Culture, something we often think of as separate from biology, plays a surprisingly significant role in shaping our evolution.
One of the sources talked about how cooking food, something uniquely human,
Yeah.
led to changes in our jaw and teeth size over generations. It's incredible how a cultural innovation can have such a ripple effect on our physical development.
Exactly. And another striking example is lactose tolerance. The ability to digest milk as adults. This trait evolved multiple times in different populations that embraced dairy farming.
The source I read even mentioned a specific mutation about 7,500 years old
Wow.
that spread rapidly across Europe, coinciding with the rise of dairy farming. It seems that cultural shifts can drive rapid evolutionary changes.
Indeed. And these cultural shifts, along with technological advancements, have led to a dramatic increase
Yeah.
in human population size and mobility,
Right.
further influencing the course of our evolution.
That's right. And one of the sources pointed out that with billions of people on Earth, the rate of mutations increases, creating more opportunities for evolution to occur. It's like having more tickets in a genetic lottery.
Exactly. And increased migration has led to greater gene flow between populations.
Right.
This mixing of genes has resulted in higher levels of heterozygosity,
Okay.
which basically means having two different versions of a gene.
That sounds complicated, but I think I get the gist. So we're becoming more genetically diverse in some ways
Yeah,
because of our interconnectedness. Is that right?
that's a great way to put it. And this increased heterozygosity has been linked to some surprising health benefits. Studies have shown that people with higher heterozygosity tend to have lower blood pressure, better cholesterol levels, and even improved lung function.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
It seems diversity, at least at the genetic level, really is a strength.
Yeah.
So we've got infectious diseases, systemic diseases, cultural influences,
Right.
population growth, and now even our interconnectedness shaping human evolution. It's a lot to take in.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
There are even more fascinating nuances to explore. For instance, did you know that traits can evolve indirectly even if there's no direct pressure on them?
Now that you mention it, one of the sources talked about our jaw and tooth size decreasing over time as a consequence of our increasing brain size. It's like a trade-off. Bigger brain, smaller jaws.
Precisely. It's a fascinating example of how evolution can work in unexpected ways. And speaking of unexpected, are you ready to delve into some visible signs of evolution that have emerged in just the last few thousand years?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm always up for some mind-blowing revelations. But before we jump into that, let's take a quick pause. When we come back, we'll explore some visible signs of recent human evolution. It's going to be fascinating.
Yeah.
And you, our wonderful listeners, stick with us. We're just getting started.
Welcome back to the All Sorts podcast, where we are journeying through the fascinating landscape of human evolution.
Yeah.
Before the break, we were talking about how our big brains may have led to our smaller jaws.
Right.
It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Yeah, you'd think with all our advancements, we'd be evolving towards having it all bigger brains, stronger jaws, the works. But this idea that certain traits can evolve indirectly is really interesting.
Yeah.
It's like evolution has a ripple effect. Changing one thing can subtly lead to changes in something seemingly unrelated.
Precisely. It's a complex web of interconnectedness. And speaking of interconnectedness, let's dive into some visible signs of recent human evolution. Remember how we were talking about increased gene flow between populations?
Yeah.
Well, that's led to some pretty interesting changes in physical traits.
I'm all ears, literally. One of the sources mentioned earwax. Apparently, the type of earwax we have can actually tell us something about our evolutionary history.
That's right. The dry, flaky earwax that's common in East Asian populations is a relatively recent development.
Wow.
Linked to a mutation that occurred just a few thousand years ago.
Hmm.
It's a reminder that even seemingly insignificant traits can evolve rapidly.
So something as simple as earwax can hold clues to our evolutionary past. What other visible signs of evolution are hiding in plain sight?
Well, let's talk hair. The thick, straight black hair that's common in many East Asian populations is another relatively recent evolutionary development.
Okay.
It evolved within the last 30,000 years.
Wow, that's surprising. I always assumed those depictions of flowing black hair in ancient Chinese art were historically accurate. It's fascinating to think about how our perceptions of what's ancient can be skewed by our limited understanding of evolutionary timescales.
You hit the nail on the head. And it's not just hair texture that's changed. The whole spectrum of skin hair and eye color variation we see today has a surprisingly shallow evolutionary history.
Oh, wow.
Many of those changes have happened in just the last few thousand years.
It makes you wonder what triggered those rapid changes. Was it purely environmental, like adapting to different levels of UV exposure, or were cultural factors involved too?
It's likely a combination of both. We know that skin pigmentation is linked to UV exposure, so migrations to different latitudes would have played a role.
Right.
But cultural preferences for certain appearances could have also influenced mate selection, further driving those changes.
It's incredible how interconnected everything is, from our genes to the environment to our cultural preferences. It all weaves together to shape the tapestry of human evolution. But I'm curious, are all beneficial mutations destined to become widespread? One of the sources mentioned that sometimes even advantageous traits can miss the boat.
You're absolutely right. Not all beneficial mutations are guaranteed a free pass to spread throughout a population.
Okay.
Timing and population size play a crucial role in determining which mutations stick around and which ones fade away.
That brings to mind the example of hemoglobin E,
Yeah.
a mutation that provides resistance to malaria without the severe side effects of sickle cell anemia. It's common in Southeast Asia, but almost non-existent in Africa, where the sickle cell mutation already had a foothold. It's like hemoglobin E showed up late to the party and missed its chance to shine.
Exactly. It highlights the role of chance in evolution.
Right.
If hemoglobin E had emerged in Africa first, the health landscape might look very different today.
It's a reminder that evolution isn't always a straightforward march towards perfection.
Yeah.
It's a messy, unpredictable process with twists and turns along the way. But I guess that's what makes it so fascinating.
Indeed. It's a constant dance between adaptation and chance. A dance that's still unfolding today. And as we look to the future, the question becomes, what will the next steps in this evolutionary dance be?
That's a question for the ages. But luckily, we have one more segment to explore some potential answers. We'll be back after a quick pause to delve into the future of human evolution and the choices that might shape the humans of tomorrow. Stay tuned, folks. Welcome back to the All Sorts podcast, where we're on this final leg of our deep dive into human evolution. We've traveled through time, explored the impact of everything from agriculture to technology,
Right.
and even uncovered some hidden evolutionary gems in our earwax and hair. But now the big question, where do we go from here? What does the future of human evolution look like?
It's a question that sparks endless fascination and speculation.
Yeah.
While we can't predict the future with certainty, we can look at the trends shaping our world and extrapolate some possibilities. And one thing is clear.
What's that?
The pace of change is accelerating.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Climate change, globalization, the rapid advancement of technology.
Right.
These are all forces that are reshaping our environment and potentially influencing the trajectory of our evolution.
One of the sources you shared highlighted a point that really resonated with me.
Yeah.
It argued that our reliance on technology, especially in a world facing climate change,
Right.
might not be the ultimate shield against natural selection.
That's a thought-provoking idea.
Yeah.
We often think of technology as something that separates us from nature.
Yeah.
But what if it's actually creating new selective pressures?
Exactly. Think about it. Access to healthcare, nutrition, education.
Right.
These are increasingly becoming determinants of survival and reproductive success.
Yeah.
In a sense, we're creating a new landscape for natural selection to operate on,
Mm.
one that's shaped by our technological and social structures.
So it's not just about surviving in the physical world anymore. It's about navigating the complexities of a technologically advanced, interconnected society. Those who are best equipped to thrive in this new environment might have an evolutionary edge.
Precisely.
Right.
And here's another layer to consider, the role of culture.
Yeah.
We've already seen how culture can influence evolution, from cooking food to dairy farming. But in today's world, culture is evolving at an unprecedented pace.
Right.
Driven by globalization, social media, and rapid technological change.
It makes you wonder, what cultural choices are we making today that might ripple through the generations and shape the humans of tomorrow?
Exactly.
Our values, beliefs, lifestyles, these all feed into the evolutionary mix.
We are, in a sense, active participants in our own evolution. Every decision we make, every innovation we create, every idea we share,
Right.
it all contributes to the ongoing story of human evolution.
It's both humbling and empowering to think about.
Yeah.
We're not just passive passengers on this evolutionary journey. We have the power to shape the course of our future, both individually and collectively.
And that brings us back to the original question. Are humans still evolving? The answer unequivocally is yes, and it's happening all around us in ways both subtle and profound, driven by the interplay of our genes, environment, culture, and choices.
It's been an incredible journey exploring the ever-evolving landscape of human evolution.
Yeah.
We've covered so much ground, but it feels like we've only just scratched the surface.
That's the beauty of this topic. It's a never-ending exploration, a constant source of wonder and discovery. And as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with one final thought to ponder. If we are indeed the architects of our own evolution, what kind of future do we want to build for ourselves and for generations to come?
It's a question that transcends the realm of science and touches on the very essence of what it means to be human.
Yeah.
But for now, we've reached the end of our journey. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of human evolution. We hope it sparked your curiosity and left you with a sense of awe for the incredible story of our species.
And if you've enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to spread the wonder. Like, share, and subscribe to the All Sorts podcast on YouTube so you never miss an episode. You can also find us on X, Instagram, and Threads, because we're all sorts of everywhere. Keep those curious minds engaged, and let's continue exploring together.
From all of us at the All Sorts podcast, keep asking questions, keep seeking knowledge, and keep embracing the journey of discovery. The story of human evolution is far from over, and the most exciting chapters are yet to be written.